Hello, hello, hello. My name is Marissa Bludorn. I am the founder and editor-in-chief. I'm the founder of the BTG Foundation and the editor-in-chief of the BTG magazine. BTG is Bridging the Gap, strategizing for student success. And we are talking all things young people and what they need in order to succeed. Taking center stage and owning it with me this evening is co-host Coach Ray Inspires. Welcome, welcome. We are
What's
in the
going on?
house tonight.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm
Oh
doing
my
really well.
God. And so tonight we got a real serious topic that we're going to be diving into. And for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, we have not been frequent on BTG. We're changing that as we're doing some things to really structure up the magazine and the platform. But BTG, Bridging the Gap, Strategizing for Student Success, is a youth leadership development based organization. And we focus on developing our young people to be leaders, have a CEO mindset, understanding that it's their life, they can own it, and making strategic decisions and having a mindset of positivity and giving back as early as possible so that they can know how to align with their design and live a prosperous life. And so I'm super excited to be here with Coach Ray Inspires. He is in the muck and mire of working with young people every day. And he has some serious topics that's on his heart today that we're going to be talking about. So share your heart tonight.
Well, first off, let me just say thank you for offering me this opportunity and believing in me to be able to carry this flag for you and for the company. I really appreciate it. And I thank God because it was His timing. Everything
Mm-hmm.
was His timing because you always feel like you could be doing more, and you always feel like there's an attachment to your purpose that you have to reach. And I'm like, God, what is that? What is it that you're trying to get me to do? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And of course, being around the youth 98.9% of my time is one thing, but I'm like, God, how do I initiate the change that I so seek, that you're
Right.
telling me to seek? I'm just one man. And you gotta be honest with God in those situations. I'm just one man, and God's like, I'm gonna equip you to be able to do this. And
Yes.
so that's where we're at now. And so the subjects and topics that we're going to be focusing on is what can we do to help shift the youth in a positive direction? Because right now, I mean, we want to be honest, like it's not looking good. And I'll be honest, I never blame them. So many people are like, oh, they got, the youth is the problem. Like, hey, growing up in a world that's full of adults, they learning from us.
Yeah. Yeah. They are.
You
They
know,
are.
and they're watching how we operate. They're watching what we indulge in. They're watching how we move, and they're taking that, and then they're young with it. So if they're young with it, it's gonna look bad. All they do is reciprocating what they see us do.
They're only doing what they only follow what they see modeled before them.
You're absolutely right, and I'll jump. We talked about this before we went live, and we're talking about the conversation with the young lady that. And I want to make sure I got her name right because that's what's important. The young lady who unfortunately lost her life in Mexico, Shanquilla Robinson. Talking about that situation is, I was actually having a conversation with some students earlier about this in my classroom, and they were like, "Oh, her friend set her up, blah blah blah." And I'm looking at posts and people talking about, oh, this is why I don't have friends, and this is why I don't do this. And I'm like, and God had to, he really told me, he was like, how is this different from stuff that we do in the neighborhoods all the time? Only
Yeah.
difference is the young lady lost her life.
Right.
That's the only difference, because you can name, everybody knows somebody that's done set somebody up to get jumped, to get robbed, whatever. What's the difference?
Right.
The only difference, they were in another country,
Right.
and she lost her life. That's it. How many
Yeah.
times have we heard stories of somebody getting set up? They get ready to go on a date, and the girl set them up. She got her friends pulling up at the house, and then they robbed you. There's no difference. So we want to try to play. We got this reactionary mindset now where it's, oh my God, this is so bad. We've been doing it in the neighborhood for years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Unfortunately.
yeah. It's
It's,
very, yeah, it's very disheartening to feel like, what goes on through a person's mind to see someone who is not well and then to just leave them. Because it said that she was found the next day.
right. They
Dead.
just left like it was nothing. Like, all right, we did it, we out.
Mm,
And the videos being passed around on social media like it's okay. It's not okay. It's
mm,
not okay because what, unfortunately, again, like we just said, these kids reciprocate what they see. So
yeah,
if we're adults constantly sharing the video, now if you're sharing the information, that's one thing.
right,
But sharing the video, it going viral, where we got a lot of kids watching it, we got a lot of young people watching it, they're soaking this stuff in. And then we
right,
wonder why they are performing the same actions as the adults because they see it.
right, right,
Whereas somebody should be like, yo, take this down, post the
right.
information to bring awareness, yes, but take the video down because young people don't need to see this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They don't need to see it, and it doesn't need to be. There becomes an emotional disconnect. So if the kids are, if it's just like, oh wow, that happened, there's no reality that, hello, this is a person's life. They talk about the mom grieving, and the parents trying to figure out what the heck happened to our child. This child is not going to be around again. This child, she's only 25 years old. She's not going to be around again. Any future that they had planned for her, that's gone. It's null and void. Her space in these people's lives, in her family and her friends' lives, her space there is going to be void. And depending on how the parents and how her friends, her real friends and her loved ones really respond emotionally to this could be trauma for them that lasts forever.
Yeah.
If she has any siblings, I don't know the case completely. She has any siblings or anyone that's close to her, this can traumatize them to say, I'm never going to leave the country. I'm never going to go here, making inner vows. I'll never do this. There's never going to be any safe. This is such a ripple effect to how do people around really respond to that. And so that's her inner network, right? That's her inner family, friends who really, really do care about her, that response. And to see these videos being played over and over again, it's also traumatizing to the family. It's
Exactly.
also traumatizing to the friends. And if there's any young people that are connected to her, little small children, if they are getting exposed to this, it could be traumatizing. There's no control over what information the younger babies get to see, and how can be traumatizing to them. So yeah, so massively being able to see this video all over the place just makes a person relive and relive and relive it. And what's really sad is this is the deal too. As we're talking about it, just thinking the young people could have been afraid that they're going to be held accountable for her murder,
It's,
for the death. And that may have been one of the reasons why they said we don't want to have anything to do with it. Let us run over here and let's leave it like we didn't know. But the sad part about it is you are responsible.
you are.
You saw it. Where was the call to the authorities to say, "Hey, my girlfriend is sick or something"? Her life may have been able to be preserved, right?
Exactly.
Saved.
And it's like you said, the mindset nowadays, the preservation of life is so not thought about anymore. The value of life is constantly diminishing because we're desensitized to caring about other people. We're so desensitized. We're in a world now where it's about self and instant gratification and instant notification and instant attention. So instead of, okay, the fight happened, what have you, which is unfortunate. It's definitely unfortunate that it happened this way, but there's somebody standing there recording it for what? But
Mm.
guess who does it? Also, our kids record fights in school. They
Yes.
record fights in neighborhoods. They record fights at malls. Why? Because the adults are doing the same exact
But
thing.
the adults are not shaming it. So, and if they're not shaming it, they're not shaming it enough. You know, they're not doing it enough and where's the accountability? So if there is no seen accountability,
Exactly.
if the accountability for this action is not seen enough, or does not have an effect, that will change the behavior, then that's what's going on. And parents and adults are getting a kick out of some of this stuff. Like
Yeah,
they're actually getting a kick out of it. So why would young people take it seriously when the adults are not taking it
and
seriously?
that's the thing. We're talking about somebody who lost their life. We're not talking about somebody who just like, who it was a fight happened, which is unfortunate regardless if they say you're your friends and they do you like that. But a fight happened and then they just came back together, everything's fine. Somebody lost their life.
Mm-hmm.
And we're passing it along like it's cool. Like the video's being passed along, it's being shared, it's like no. Bring awareness to what happened. Yes. Let we got this mindset where we ain't snitching or whatever. But if you know somebody that was involved in it, tell the authority, move on. Tell the authorities move on. But this shouldn't be cycling through the internet day in and day out because people will pretend like they care. Why? Because that gets me attention if I act like it matters to me, but then the next day I go back to my life, it is what it is. So we're in a reactionary state.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it says here, according to Revolt, this is an online uh, media source, and it says after they found it was alcohol poisoning, they received, this was, they're talking with the Shanquella's group,
Mm-hmm.
and reportedly left her body in their vacation rental and returned home to the States. Also, they just left her in the hotel.
Left for no.
After they said it was alcohol poisoning, we received the autopsy report on Thursday, and it said that her neck had been broken and that she had a back spasm. There was a crack. Her spinal cord was cracked, and that's what the parents told WBTV. And it took that to a whole nother level because that meant somebody had attacked her.
Yeah. And I'm all for
So
getting it out.
what does the video show? I didn't see the
The
video.
video shows her fighting someone, and she has no clothes on and she's fighting someone. And come to find
No
out,
clothes on at
she has
all.
no clothes on and she's fighting someone. Come to find out that the person she was fighting was I believe they said it was a male who dressed as a woman.
Wow.
Okay, I'm not getting deep into that part of the conversation, but at the end of the day, you beat this woman to the point where she no longer has a life. Like, come on, and then it's being filmed. Like, if it's being passed around for people to find out what happened to her and help, that's one thing. But this is being passed around for people. People are passing it around just for attention, just to say that I make a post that I care. Oh my God, it's so tragic that this happened. A lot of people, it's just reactionary. Because you're not gonna stop your friends from doing somebody like that. If we want to keep it all the way 100, like I said earlier, how many situations have we heard about something like that happening in the neighborhoods?
But guess what? They're all going to jail.
They going to jail.
They're all going to jail. There's no way that they're not going to jail.
They should
Everyone is going to jail.
Again, that I raised the question.
So they're all of their lives from going on this vacation ruined.
It's over because you was on some petty stuff or whatever minimal beef that y'all had. That y'all went and took this lady's life. But that's why I say people are all up in arms. This is so sad. How many people do we know in neighborhoods that have done something similar like this?
And what does it take? Like, okay, so what does it take? Because you said something, and I'm always, Marissa, it ain't all the parents. And you said something, and I'm a little your senior. And so, I have always argued it's the parents. I've always argued, even as a young person, I've always argued it's the parents. But of course, our laws don't help parents, because the minute you put your hand on the child to discipline the child, you're in trouble.
That law
But
ain't exist in my mama house.
but you know what? To be honest with you, the way that you deal with that is you deal with your children when they're real small, when they're tiny. Because if you deal with your children when they're tiny, you don't have to really put your hands on them later, because they've already
Right.
learned the rules. They've already learned
You
the rules.
waiting. You know,
And
because I work at a high school, and you hear all the time with parents saying, I don't know what to do with them. What you mean? That means you waited too long. You waited too long to do your job. And now you're expecting us as educators and coaches to do your job. No, we're supposed to be reinforcing the discipline and
that's you,
that
right?
you
Right,
structure.
right. So I wrote up a piece on It Takes a Village. And the way
Yeah.
that this village works is first in the home. So mom and dad are the first supporters of this child, right? So when the child goes to school, so if you have a proper foundation at home, kid doesn't get to school right out of coming out of the womb. There's a period of time before that kid goes to the daycare. There's a period of time before that kid goes to the nursery school. Nursery school. There's a period of time. So you as parents have you are the first point of how this kid's mind is going to be, the information and the environment. You're the first source. And so then it goes to the child being in school with the teacher. Then it's the teacher just building on what's already there with the child, and the child being respectful and cooperative and open to learning. That's where that partnership goes in. And then the teacher needs the partnership and the support of the school system, right? And the
It all
school
works together.
system needs the support of the community. And that's the village. So you got the parents supporting the kid, you got the teachers supporting the kid, you got the administration supporting the teacher, which supports the kid directly. Then you have the community at large that supports that supports the whole unit. And so when parents, and that's why it goes back to on Friday nights, we do Sweetheart Before I Say I Do. And my argument is always this, is that couples don't understand. The bigger picture is how you raise your child to be a participant in the community.
No,
And that makes the community. That
that
makes the community.
that is the key point right there. As a parent, I have to know that I am imparting morals and values into my kid, because they have to be a functional person in society. And whatever community they decide to grow up in, they have to be able to function in that. And I've worked in communities since I was about 18, 19 years old when I started coaching youth ball. And I've been in some communities where you're like, you think it's your kid's fault? No, it's yours. It's you. You are home sleep every day of the week, and you're not supporting your kid who's out here or you're not even coming on time to pick your kid up from practice. I remember coaching in Berkeley, and we would have to drive like 6, 7 kids home a night. And then you pull up to the house and parents in there chilling. 3, 4 cars outside, they chilling.
It's not a priority.
Not a
It's not a
priority.
priority.
So then you get mad when your kid you want everybody to feel sorry for you as a parent when your kid falls to the street. The kid fell to the street because you didn't do your job.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they fell to the street. That's why negative influence were able to impact the kid. I'm not sitting here and I'm not mincing. There's everybody. Well, what about the single moms? They got a lot on their plate, and the dads. Listen. At the end of the day, it's about what's important. Are your personal problems important, or is your kids' growth and development important? Because I know some single mothers who put their foot to pavement and their kids are stellar.
Mm-hmm.
Straight up. And I know some ones who made an excuse every step of the way, and their kids are the ones who fall to the street because it's always somebody else's fault. Somebody antagonized my kid. No, do what you're supposed to do for your kid, your individual child, and keep them on the right path, because they have to function in a community that's supposed to be supporting them.
Right.
But if they got a top tier athlete, we're not supporting them.
And that's how that goes. And even if you want to be a parent that's selfish, be selfish in the sense that If I can take care of this kid and make sure that this kid knows how to handle themselves in the community, I'll have my life back, right? Because if you raise the child the right way, you don't have to worry about going to visit them in the jail. You don't have to worry about going to visit them in the having all of these problems. Now we know that circumstances sometimes happens, right? You
Right,
know, where
right,
the kid did everything right and something wrong happens.
right.
We're not discounting that at all, but we're talking about the norm. And the norm is that if you spend time, it's not about you. Once you have children,
It
it's
ain't
not about you. It's about them and getting
right.
them to the finish line. And so you have to become selfless as a parent. It's not about you. You have to become selfless and you have to pour in. And it's only for a season. Before you know it, your kids are out of the house. If you do it right, they're out of the house. If you do it right, they're independent. And very little, they'll always need you, but not in the same capacity.
Right. And the thing about it is that the support from a parent has to go beyond the home and beyond, like I said, apparently from what I've gathered over the last few years, if the kid's a top tier athlete, they get all the support in the world. But if they just a kid who's just trying to get by in school, it's very minimal support. You know, everybody when they top tier athletes, they everybody nephew,
Right.
everybody in the community. But if there's a kid that's in band, don't nobody know him. And then when that kid who had promise of being a stellar band person maybe wanted to be in an orchestra, maybe wanted to be a go engineering school, they don't have the same support. This is the kid that gets caught up because, like I tell you all the time, it's always the kid who's never supposed to be in the environment that gets in trouble or gets killed because they found support from somewhere else rather than the people that were supposed to be loving and supporting them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead because we've been over. Let's move on because that what we're talking about now actually moves us to our next point. And we're talking about the constant increase in gun violence in our communities with the youth. Hear what I said: the constant increase, not like this is just popping up here or there. No, we're talking about the consistency of the increase in gun violence and how our kids are getting these guns in their hand. But I keep seeing people talk about put the guns down. But where are they getting them from? Guess what? The adults. Let's
Yeah.
call it what it is. But because we live in this mentality of we ain't snitching, so we'd rather sacrifice our kids just so we don't look like we told on somebody. We sacrificing the next generation because we don't want to look like a punk. When
Right.
you like these kids ain't getting them out of nowhere. They're not old enough to go to the stores and get them.
Wow.
So who putting it in their hand? So we talked before, and it says this. I was reading the article. It says the spike in youth firearm deaths during the pandemic. We're talking about the pandemic. It was 9.9. So that's almost 10 kids out of every 100,000.
Wow. Wow.
Now we fast forward to 2020 and above. We're talking 15.5 kids per 100,000. So it's consistently going up where there's injuries or death from firearms. That's 15 kids per 100,000. That's 8 billion people in the world. Do the math.
Yeah. 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 And what's the necessity for the young people to have it?
The same necessity, I guess, for the grown people who had it. I mean, they would say it's protection, but at the end of the day, who are you protecting yourself from?
Where did they get to have the conversation where the exchange took place? And so you said, how do we get to this point? Was one of the questions you were saying. And and it goes back to if we're not willing to have the difficult conversation. So remember, you said we got to talk about the elephant in the room. We're not willing to have the difficult conversations about what is going on in our community. I remember when my kids were young, and my kids are 30 and 35. So I remember when my kids were teens, and there was a lot of sexual exploration and all this other stuff. And I was having the conversations that, do I really want to have these conversations with my daughters? And sometimes it was like, do I really want to have this conversation with my daughters at this age? But I knew then that if I did not have the conversations with my daughters, that I didn't want to have, like, I didn't, you don't want to have those kind of conversations because I felt like they were too young. But I also knew that if I did not have this conversation with them, if I didn't set up this environment and this atmosphere of non-judgmental conversation, that someone else is going to have this conversation with my daughters, someone else, and perhaps that someone else is their peers. And that's the blind leading the blind, because they don't know anything, and they don't have grounded wisdom or experience to really make quality decisions. So I had to be very transparent with my daughters very early on. And I'm thankful that I took on that approach, because the respect level, now that they are older, the respect level, them being able to share with me in a way that maybe some other kids didn't have the ability to share with their parents. But if you don't have those conversations are going to happen, whether you like it or not.
They're going to happen. They're going to happen either in an environment where it's going to sound enticing to them, or it's going to happen at home where you can let them know the reality of the situation. We are in a society now where it's such a selfish society. And it's so selfish to the point where people are willing to sacrifice their own kids for their enjoyment. Like, if let's be real, let's call it what it is. We all got friends on social media who have kids, and we got the ones who are really good parents and the ones who really do what they're supposed to do. And then you got the ones who are like, I'm just doing this, I'm putting it on for social media. And I get it, because it's cool to get the likes and loves. I want to post them on first day of school when they got new clothes on, but I ain't never posting their report cards.
Yeah.
I ain't never at a PTA meeting. I'm never at a parent-teacher conference, but first day of school, hey, I want to show people that I look what they got on, because that's good parenting nowadays. So outside of that, get to a point now where I need my time back. I'm not dealing with this. You chose to have kids. They didn't ask to be here. Your time don't matter until they are old enough and equipped to sustain. So I got to get my time back. I got self-care. It's about me. Yes, self-care is important to a degree until it becomes self-centered.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Self-care is, I need to get some rest this weekend. I need to relax. I need to get my head together. Those are elements. It's okay. I don't want to be bothered today for this. But when you are like, I care about me, and your kids are like, but I need help. Don't bother me. But your kid needs help. The school is calling you about your kid's behavior. But, you worried about you. You worried about the next white party. You worried about the next Miami trip with your homegirls, or you worried about the next time you and your homeboys going to the game, but your kid's struggling in school.
Right.
But senior night, you there. Senior night, everybody pull up.
Yeah, because
everybody been trying to
we got the parade.
Yeah, balloons. Graduation, we got balloons, everything.
But I gotta make sure my daughter has the baddest gown, right?
Yeah, we got T-shirts with the picture printed on it, and all this stuff. We paying thousands for proms, but the school been calling you since they were freshmen in high school. And the school need to stop calling my phone. Why they keep calling me? They calling you because your kid acting up, and they doing what they can on their part, but their job is not to, quote unquote, discipline your child into behaving. That's your job. Early, like you stated earlier, when they're growing, before they step foot in school, that precedent should be set. The school's job is to reiterate the discipline and the values that you are instilling, not set them for you.
Right.
That's where the line is broken now, because we got parents expecting the schools to do their job when the school is really just support and education. Their job ain't to set your kids straight.
Their job is not to set the foundation. And it's our job in our homes to create core values. We don't talk about core values. We don't talk about what's the mantra of the family. Kids will want to honor their family. Believe it or not, children want instruction. They want boundaries, because with instruction and boundaries, it lets them know when they're doing well and when they're not. It sets the tone for affirmations, confirmation of identity and purpose, and alignment with the family and the family values. you have to identify family values. You have to have traditions that go beyond just what y'all are cooking for for Thanksgiving. It
Right.
has to go beyond. Teach your kids the recipes. Teach them how to cook the meals. And teach them to be a part of the family and a part of the family legacy. Our children are our legacy. They're our mark. They're the very thing that when we leave the earth, that we leave behind to say, this represents me. These
Mhm.
children represent me. They represent my core values and my deep convictions. Kids want to, they are full of pride. They want to be proud of their
Yes.
family. They want to be proud of their family. They want to be proud of what their family represents. But if they don't know that, our young people are suffering from an identity crisis. And
Because
so, like
their
you
parents
said,
don't have their parents don't have their identity. And I'm not saying all. Let's clarify, because people like to get in their feelings. And say, "Man, you talking to me? If it affects you, then maybe it is you." But let's be real. It's not all parents, because there's
no,
some
it's
great
not.
parents out here to get the job done. And sometimes there's that anomaly where there's a kid or kids who just don't want to do right.
Yeah, yeah, you have
There's
that.
that anomaly that does exist. But a lot of the problem that I see in the schools, and as a coach or whatever, I pay attention to the attitude of the parent. When I get a kid who's just disgruntled, whatever, got attitude problems, stank attitude, whatever, usually not jumping the gun about dealing, arguing or whatever. I don't argue with kids. Like, that's one thing about it. Like, but when I meet the parent, I'm like, see where you got it from. It's
There's the source.
not your fault. Okay, that's not on you. You grew up in that. So
Hmm.
I gotta show you how to manage your behavior, manage your emotions. So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of emotional managing as an in-school suspension coordinator at the school. I spend my time in the classrooms. I spend my time in classrooms, but I like dealing with it from a disciplinary aspect because I can help them before they make a major mistake.
Right.
So I spend the time when they're in my room. They come to I says, one, you can't have your phone. We're gonna eradicate that right there. You get your work done, but in the process of being in there, I'm coaching you. Tell me what happened, and I want the whole story. Don't tell me the part you want me to hear to make me think you're the victim. Tell me the whole thing, and then I'm gonna help you piece together where you went wrong. This is how it's supposed to work. But when you have a generation of parents who are victim mentality people, and everybody else is wrong and I'm not, these kids pick it up. We have situations where kids are like, y'all take it too serious at this school. You mean what? Doing the right thing? I was just playing. Why y'all taking it that serious? Because you're not supposed to do that.
Right. Accountability. When
Accountability is
people
lost.
change your behavior.
So we get lack of accountability, and then when these kids, it starts when they're young, when they make that first mistake, and it's not the teacher's getting fussed at because they did their job. Now, granted, again, let me rewind. There are some teachers out here who nitpicking whatever.
Oh yeah.
There's some bad seeds in the education system. Let's keep it all the way 100.
Oh, absolutely.
But
And that's why you want to make sure your kid is right before it even gets to
teach
the
them how
school
to
system.
teach. One of the things that I do now, and the trainings that I do with young people now is I'm teaching them how to navigate high school, how to navigate, how to deal with teachers in a certain way, how to deal with it, because every teacher ain't the same. You might get that one teacher that don't mind you having your phone out once they finish talking. And then you'll get that one who every time you breathe, it's a problem. So let me show you how to navigate that type of teacher so you ain't in my room no more.
And that's a critical skill for life, because it's not just, this is a skill that they learn while they're in high school. They master it because you're going to deal with that even when you get in the workforce. So when you go to college, you're going to deal with professors that are the same way, and they need healing. So adults need a lot of healing from their dysfunctionality,
Yes.
their failed lives, or their traumatized experience in life, and whatever bitterness that holds. So teaching them at a younger age. That's why parents need to understand. I did a book, and it's called Maintain Your Superhero Status, A Real Parent's Perspective. The whole point about maintaining your superhero status is when kids are when they come out, right? When they are born, the first thing that they connect to is their parents or the person who is taking care of them. that person to them is invincible. When
Yes.
they're little, they're invincible. The kids will believe everything that comes out of that adult's mouth, whether it's their parents directly or the guardian that's taking care of them. You are their superhero. You are their everything until they start building relationships outside the home through school and extra activities. You are the superhero. So maintain that status so that you always have access to them, and a conversation to help make sure that they always have your wisdom flowing in them, and that they would take that wisdom and respected it enough to apply it in their life. That's why it's maintain your superhero status. You want to always maintain that input. You want to do that because you got to cultivate them along the way. They got to navigate through this life. They got
Yes.
to navigate them. And the minute they understand politics, where they understand, they have political savvy and understanding how to deal with the different dynamics of the relationships, different personalities, and understand that they want to get at it. I always say, I did a presentation, it's called Get What You Came For. You always want to be able to teach your young person to look at a situation and say, what do I need to do in order positively and to get the results that I want? What do I need to do to adjust my behavior, my attitude, my body language immediately, so that I can get exactly what it is I came to get? And
And
so,
so in that point, what you're saying there. Now we move on to the next question: is it fixable? Yes. The high increase of gun violence that is going on with the youth and the issues in general that are going to are fixable. They're extremely fixable. So now we're going to connect before is it fixable? Yes. Now let's combine that and four, and we'll keep going. The conversation will get a little bit more in depth with three and four combined. How can we fix it? Now, this might upset some people. Might, I'm sure. How do you fix it? You actually have to be a parent and you have to be consistent. You have to show your kid that you're not cerebral all the time, that you have to be able to be a little translucent. And I say there's a difference between being translucent and transparent, because sometimes when you're a little too transparent, that gives kids the green light to say, well, you did it.
yeah,
No,
right?
no. I'm translucent. I'm giving you what I did, but I'm not telling you, and I'm not giving you all the gory details,
Yeah.
right? I did this because I was in this situation. You don't need to know what exactly transpired by the decision that I made, because it might sound enticing to you. But I'm going to tell you this is the mistake that I made.
Right.
And this is how you can overcome making that same mistake. So one thing that I say how it can be fixed is, one, we say consistency. Have to be consistent. If you're gonna discipline your kid. Don't discipline them at 8 o'clock, and because they ask you something 5 times at 10 o'clock, you giving them what you took away from them just so they can get out your face.
Follow through. You got to follow
Follow
through on the
through.
discipline.
Be consistent. My parents were consistent. I don't care how hard I tried. You was on punishment. You was on punishment. It is what it is. You ain't going outside. You ain't seeing, and you can hear everybody outside having the greatest time ever. And you can have a sad
Mhm.
face. You just had a sad face while she's watching the story. It is what it is. So being consistent is one thing. The next thing is lean on your help. Lean on
Mm.
your help. Don't be there's so much pride now. That's my kid. Can't nobody say nothing to my kid. Whereas
Oh
we
my
grew up where
God.
community was important. You talked about connecting everything, and one of the things that
Yes.
I talk about is connecting the four pillars of a successful youth. Like, that's their education, their family, their self-confidence, and the community. You got to lean on some people in the community that are strong enough to help you, because they might see something that you ain't seeing. They might actually have seen your kid on the block when they wasn't supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean pull up to their house and cuss them out because they telling you where they kid. They saw your kid.
Right.
So ain't nobody picking on your kid. If somebody's saying they seen your kid do something that you know they normally don't do, handle your kid. So lean on your community. That's a big thing because the community is so broken now.
Right.
It's so broken. The community that
It's
we once had.
I mean, in some communities, there is community, but at large, there is no community. There is no community. There is no community. There used to be a way where you would go somewhere and you would know. I know when I was a kid growing up, um, my neighbors, if I did something that was wrong, my neighbors did not have, they weren't worried about arguing with my parents. They were waiting for my parents to get home.
Listen, what? I grew
Blah,
up.
blah, 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 blah.
I grew up in a neighborhood where, listen, and it's funny. They used to tell. The community would tell. And I remember, and I grew up in Park Place in Norfolk. And I grew up around a time where drugs hit the scene. You know, my parents were good parents. Like, you going to have your butt in the house, whatever, this and the third. Even back then, there was a code for the people who were still, they might have been doing their dirt, but there was a code. You didn't involve kids, and you didn't entice kids. So we would get off the bus, and they like, yo, go home. Why you still out here? Go home, do your homework. The community at large is lost because now it's everybody against everybody. There's always some drama ensuing, and these kids are seeing it. So what better way to feel included than for me to go to a community that accepts me? And that's the gang community. They accept me.
Right.
My parents ain't listening to me. My parents ain't talking to them. They ain't talking to me. Brandon, I get it. We gotta work. All this stuff, but you still gotta check in on your kid.
Yeah.
So if they ain't getting it at home, they gonna find somewhere where they feel accepted. And a lot of these kids are feeling accepted in this gang situation. They feeling accepted with these groups that just, they out here fighting.
And even getting back to your story with Shanquella, it's like she thought that she was with people who cared about her. There's no way that she went on the trip thinking that these people, she would never go that far away from safety or security. She thought these were her girls. I'm going to have a good time. And what happens is if you're not aware, like if you compromise, right? So you want to fit in. Our young people want to fit in. My daughters are homebodies. They look much younger than they are. Their mom looks much younger than they are. And it's because that it wasn't a priority to be out there, to be running, to be going here, to be going there. I taught my daughters it's important to rest too. Like you can go, but you need to rest too. You always need to find your sanctuary at home. But she didn't go out there thinking that these young ladies would do this to her. And sometimes there's a falsehood to these outside relationships, that these kids get into relationships that look like family, but it's not really family. It's just acceptance. It's acceptance so that they can trick you into doing something so that you're stuck with that family. And so that's not real love. And so what comes from parents is real, genuine, unconditional, selfless love for their children, and a sacrifice. And when you said earlier about one of the ways that we start fixing the problem is consistency and discipline, and consistency in accountability, and follow through. It's a sacrifice, because when the child is on punishment, so is the parent, because the parent can't just go and do. You got to stay there to make sure that the child is adhering to the consequences, which is the punishment.
You can't put your kid on punishment and then you leave them. And all of a sudden you mad that they went in the room and turned on their game system or whatever. But you done left them. You ain't doing your job. Oh, I can't keep you all day.
And it also goes back to, like we said, when the kids are small and you reprimand them, they remember that punishment. And it's a reminder to them that did not feel good.
Yep.
At a young age. If you do it when there's toddlers, and because I can remember when my kids were born, I was young, my kids were born. I remember, folks talking about terrible twos. And I can remember saying, I'm not having terrible twos. Like, I'm not doing all that. Kid ain't falling out on me, embarrassing me while we
My
in the
daughter
store.
did it
We're
one
not doing
time.
that. So when they were younger, I just disciplined them. And I did what my mom did with me. My mom gave me a look, and I was like,
Listen,
cut. So I say this, my mom would leave us home. And I can't say that we were always 100% perfect in it,
no,
but my mom could leave our home. And if she set a discipline, we knew
you adhere to it.
we don't do that,
That's that.
don't do that. And so we knew to a certain degree not to even tempt her with not adhering to. And then if we did, it was a longer punishment. You
Right.
stayed on even longer. Um,
It's funny, and I want to put this out here for everybody if you're watching who's like, oh, they just attacking parents. Listen, it's just the first episode. It's just the first episode.
we
I
just
promise
chat
you.
on.
I promise you, school systems and teachers and all they gonna get the smoke too.
Everybody in the village.
Everybody in the village getting the smoke. But right now, we just focus on this right here because this is one of the major pillars. It's funny. I remember back in the day with parents where they investigated your friends. If you remember I remember back in the day, like you couldn't go hang out with people until your parents met my parents.
That's
These
what I
is
do with
like
my
quick
kids.
scroll now. It's like, oh, you going with such a okay, cool. You don't know who your kid chilling with? How you not searching their room?
Mm-mm.
That's their room. No, that's your room. You paying
Yeah,
the bill. You
yeah.
know, my mom used to burn me up. I come home, my mom done cleaned the whole room. She done went through drawers, she done went through closets, everything, hotting me up. But at the end of the day, it kept me from making a dumb decision.
Yeah.
And I was trying to make some decisions. I was on some wild stuff back when I was a teenager. But my mom knew. All my friends' moms met my mom and my dad all the time. My senior prom date met my mom and my dad. It wasn't like this was before we even got the colors together to go to prom. This was, hey, I want to sit down and meet her people to know who you going with.
Yeah. Nope.
You know what I'm saying? Now these parents don't even they think it's cute. They don't even know who their kids with. Oh, they got a little girlfriend. Do you know them? Do you know her parents? Do you know them? Do you know where they live at? Do you know how they operate? Because I'm sorry, I'm a firm believer, and I need to see your environment.
Yep.
I need to see how your peoples operate because that's going to tell me how you're going to treat my kid.
Right.
And I'm not. My kids are young. I got a 20-year-old bonus daughter, but I got my biological kids. Like, believe me, they young, but I need to know who you with.
Yeah.
I need to know because I need to know who I'm coming at when something happened to my kid.
Yeah, and so for me, with my kids growing up, I was the go-to home. So I wanted the kids to come over my house. So if they were gonna come to hang out at my house. And the reason why is because I got to see them. I got to see the kids. I got to talk to the kids. And that way I had an inside, view of where the kids were, as opposed to sending my kids over someone's house. That wasn't the norm. The norm was, and I created an environment by which they would want to come, right? The pool table, the big screen TV. They want to come to your house because you're the go-to parent. And so that's how I was able to stay in touch with what was going on with my young people, my children.
And it's funny because my mom, our house was that house.
Yep.
Our house and my friend Darrell and Rhonda, their mom's house. Though between my house and my friend Darrell's house, that's where everybody went. Why? Because that's where safety was. Because we knew, first of all, my mom, you won't about to act up in my mama's house. Let's just keep it 100. But it was something like my friend Darrell's mom. Love Mama Dorothy. Oh my gosh, one of the greatest women I've ever met in my life. Listen, you were held accountable in her home, not just my house, but her home. And we were young. Even when we were grown, but still young, we still pushed the envelope. And you come in that house late on some wild stuff, she's sitting right there. and you're gonna get this scripture.
Yeah, and that's it. Listen, Coach Ray, I used to be laying hands on those kids.
You're gonna
I
get
would
this
lay
scripture
hands
real
on
quick.
them. We would have prayer before they left. So when the kids were going to the beach or they were going somewhere, it'd be like, and then they even got to a point where they would say, "Hey, mom, come on, you got to pray for us. You know, you got to pray for us." Da, 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 da. So they really, they, like I said early in the show, is that our kids want us present.
Yes.
They want our love. They want to know that they matter to us and that we are concerned about them when they leave, because when they feel that, they're affirmed through your love. They're secure. They're not seeking just anything. They
Right.
won't just go with anyone. They
It
will make
hurts
better
them.
selections.
It hurts them when they feel like their parents don't care.
They
People
feel
can act like
abandoned.
people can act like it don't matter, but these kids be hurt. I see
Yeah.
I have these conversations with kids. I
Mhm.
have these conversations where some of them feel like they aren't cared about at home.
Well, you, Coach Ray, you have the conversations with the kids. I have the conversations with the adults because I see their abandonment. They feel, even as adults, grown-ups, they felt abandoned by their parents. And that's the ripple effect, right? So that's what goes down into the generation. Now, because of that absence, instead of getting healed and dealing with that, now you have offspring and you don't know how to teach them and you don't know how to show up yourself as a parent. So part of the problem is, and one of the, because we're talking about fixing, is it fixable? What are some of the fixes? Is that parents need to go and get therapy.
Yes.
You go get therapy so that you are now built enough and you have the capacity to now then become a better parent, to be transformed as a better parent. Because if you don't do the introspective work, so if you don't do the self-introspective work, if you don't get therapy, if you don't get coaching, if you don't get something to help you navigate through what is it that caused you to be neglectful as a parent? What's causing you not to show up the way that you really want to show up? Because some parents are also getting depressed behind their lack of performance.
Right.
They're getting depressed and then they're giving up. They're in a state of hopelessness. So they give up. And so we don't want them to do that, because the fulfillment comes when you get healed. And then now you can go and you can heal and restore your relationship with your children, because that's critical.
Is that, and here's something else and this is something I've been an advocate for. Get your kids involved in positive activities early. Like, don't wait until you I need something for them to do like that.
It's not even something for them to do, because you want them to align with their design. They're designed a certain way. They have certain natural talents and gifts. And what you want to do is, I always call it, you want to do the exploratory work so that you can discover who you are, discover what you are about, discover what you're designed to do, and then you want to be able to align with that design, because in that lies your fulfillment. So you have to, instead of saying just put the kid in football or just put the kid in basketball, you gotta put them in there, but see if they like it.
That might not
and
be
if they don't like it, try. There's so many different sports out there now.
And
there's so many different activities.
I'm sorry, but not even just sports. And that's something that I'm gonna add, because I've seen a lot of times where people are putting their kids in sports just because, and the kid's like, I don't even like sports. The kid might like music. The kid might like art. The kid might be, my wife always talks about how she's a creative. The kid might be a creative. Yeah. But you throwing them in football because that's what you wanted to do when you weren't successful at it. So now you got to live through your kid. And your kid might want to be an engineer. One of the things about my son
is crying for minorities. STEM is crying science, technology, engineering and mathematics. They are dying for minorities to show up. They're dying.
My son who's 8 years old told me and his mom he wants to be a paleontologist. He's 8. He has an A in STEM every marking period. So you know what toys I buy him? STEM toys.
Yeah.
He loves Legos. Like, he loves to build Lego sets. But STEM toys. My daughter she wants to be a doctor. What? Okay, cool. You got Doc McStuffins, you got everything that represents doctors. That's the stuff I'm getting you, because at the end of the day, I'm going to encourage the gift. If that's what you feel like your gift is, we're gonna try it out. She does karate too. But we're gonna find this.
You gotta test them out. You gotta give them the exposure that's needed in order for them to find their way. And there are lots of programs. You just gotta do your homework. There's plenty of programs that are free. There are plenty of programs that are free. There are plenty of programs.
Use your phone that y'all be on 99.9% of the time and Google programs that are your kids like.
Face embedded. Face embedded.
But it's for example, one of the greatest quotes I heard was from Jamal King. He said one time, he said, your level of success is your level of exposure will determine your level of success. If you're not exposing your kid to anything but what you think they would like, you're limiting them. Yes, they might be good at football and basketball, but that might not be their gift. Now, that could be used as a pathway to get them to their gift. Like that scholarship that they get can get them in a college that has a degree choice for their gift. But don't look because they're age 5 and they're talented. You're already looking at NFL dreams, and the kid like, well, I really want to be an engineer. So when they don't make it, they feel like a failure.
Right.
And what happens then? They go to the streets because they didn't make your dream happen of them going pro. So they don't feel like you love them. They go to the streets where they feel loved. This is where we get extra bodies in the gun violence program. This is when we get extra people in gangs, because your whole life you told them you going to the NFL or you going to the NBA, and then when they don't make it, they feel like a failure.
Yeah.
And they find someone who just accepts them for just being who they are.
That scholarship, they're looking for the love.
That scholarship that they would have gotten could have gotten them into a college and propelled them to where they would really want to go. And I tell kids all the time, we have at the school I coach at, we have kids that get academic money. We had a kid, he played for us last year. He went to Virginia Union. Full academic. I can't even remember the name of the degree. I know I couldn't pronounce it. But listen, full academic. We had another kid, academic money. He's at Virginia Tech. Academic money. Don't just chase the athletic scholarships. Get your kid to the point where, academics helps. One of my close friends got academic and athletic money when he left high school because he was a good student. But we push athletics. Athletics, you got to go to you got to go D1, you got to go pro, and then when they don't make it, they spend their life feeling like a failure because that's the only thing you hung your hat on.
And we send our girls after them. So we send our girls to prep them so that they can get the athlete.
Yeah.
So because that's your life. So that's an issue. But we are up. Our hour is up. So Coach Ray, close us out.
Listen, I enjoyed this first, and again, for everybody who's watching, this is just the first episode. Please don't take it to heart. Like, they're gonna be up here talking about parents every week. No, this is just the first episode. This is us getting it going. Everybody's getting the smoke that's attached to these kids. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, but at the same time, we will be bringing in people who are doing good things in the community and helping the next generation be great. So look forward to that. We appreciate everybody. Ms. Marissa, thank you. It is an honor to work with you and work alongside you. I can't wait till we get this train. This train is going full steam ahead, and we're going to do what we're supposed to do to get this next generation up and running and going in the right direction. We love y'all. We thank you. Can't wait to see y'all next week.
We're out. You guys have a blessed week and be safe.
All right now.